Yeah, hello everyone, Irvin Reacts here, and welcome back to another video. So, today I'm going to be reacting to a brief history of the royal family by on the channel CGP Grey. CGP Grey has made makes a lot of good content, and considering, and the reason why I'm going to react to this is because of the whole political landscape of that's happened since the Queen Elizabeth II's funeral, like Australia's referendum for independence, and so many other members of the Commonwealth trying to break away from the monarchy, and also the people of the UK itself protesting against Charles's coronation as king. So with all that happening, I decided let's watch some British royal royal history. Right now, I have watched this video before. However, it's been a few years ago. However, like I was saying earlier, it's been so long since I watched it, I forgot all about it. Well, I do know what it's about. It's about the family tree of the British royal family. But what I essentially forgot was, like, who's the son of who, and who's this guy's grandmother, who's this guy's aunt, basically the members, and who's the ancestor of which. So we're going to relearn that tonight, okay? And 3, 2, 1, and go.
1066, the start of the royal family on these fair isles. Well, there were kings and many countries before that, and druids before that, and Pangaea before that, but we have to start somewhere, and a millennia ago is plenty far. If that leaves out Ethelred the Unready, so it goes. William the Conqueror conquered in the Norman Conquest, Norman here being code.
Fun fact about William the Conqueror. His first title before William the Conqueror was William the Bastard. Now, if you think that's an insult, why would he have that title? Isn't it insulting? Well, yes, it is. But the reason why he was first called William the Bastard instead of the Conqueror is because bastard means illegitimate child. And he was basically the illegitimate child of the French Duke of Normandy. His mother was a peasant woman. So yeah, that's why he was first called William the Bastard. However, that changed when he conquered England from William the Bastard to William the Conqueror.
For French. Because it's the olden days, people had lots of kids, but to keep things simple, this family tree is going to leave out many of them on each branch because not every child matters. So William had 3 kids we care about: William II, Henry I, and Adela. If you've seen the video about royal succession, click here. If you haven't, you'll know that formal rules for passing on the crown will get established, but for now it's a free-for-all home team advantage to the eldest son. But never forget, bigger army diplomacy. Upon William the Conqueror's death, William II became king. William II didn't marry, and on a bro's day out with Henry, died in a hunting accident that...
Yeah, a hunting accident. Sure.
Gave Henry I the crown. Henry I had at least 26 children, of which only 2 were 100% legit. He declared his daughter would rule next after his son died in a shipwreck, and swore his knights to honor Empress Matilda by crossing their hearts, hoping to die, sticking a needle in their eye. But when Henry I died while Matilda was in France, many ignored this, while her cousin Stephen raced to Westminster using faster army diplomacy to get coronated first. Empress Matilda did eventually return and start a decades-long civil war that was pretty much a stalemate because turtling in the 1100s was an effective RTS tactic. While she did rule part of the island, as Matilda never had an official coronation, her monarchical status is disputed. Now, as Stephen's children were either dead, disinterested, or a nun, his crown went to his nephew, Henry II, who had 4 sons: Henry the Young, Richard the Lionheart, King John, and Jeff. Guess who died before his...
Imagine having a king named Jeff. Long live King Jeff! Yeah, it doesn't have a good ring to it.
turn. Henry II saw the history thus far of conquering, assassination, maybe usurpation, attritional war, and decided waiting until after the death of the current king before sorting out the next king didn't work. So Henry II changed the system and crowned Henry the Young co-king with him, invoking the rule of two. One is none. Two is one. If it's important, you need a backup. It was a good plan for stability, helped by the young king's popularity, but unfortunately the apprentice rebelled against the master, rallying his brothers, which resulted in another civil war of disputed monarchs, during which Henry the Young died of dysentery, Henry the Elder died of fever, and Richard I took the crown. After Richard came John and 4 eldest son successions in a row. John to Henry III, insert Magna Carta here, to Edward I, Longshanks to Edward II to Edward III. Actually, Ed II was overthrown by Isabel of France, aka the She-Wolf of France, aka his wife.
Yep, I remember about that, how Edward II's wife did rebel against him.
Deposing her husband, she acted as regent for their son. Every one of these arrows glosses over a bit of complexity. Edward III had 5 sons: Edward the Black Prince, Lionel, John, Edmund, and Thomas, none of which would wear the crown. When Edward III died, his throne would have gone to the Black Prince, but he was dead at the time, so the crown went to his boringly named son Richard, now the second. There's a bunch of drama llama stuff around Richard II which your English teacher might force you to read about, but spoiler alert, history's ending is always the same: bigger army diplomacy. This time from Henry IV, who gets the crown, and Richard II gets starvation and captivity. Another Henry before we get to the War of the Roses, a war that strikes terror and boredom in the minds of students of history the nation over, who have to deal with this family tree simplified.
Wait, the simplified version of the family tree. I think the people who made this diagram should buy a English dictionary and search up the meaning behind simplified. But then again, this is a tree map of a middle-aged monarch. So then again, what truly is simplified?
To explain why everyone was angry. But the shortest version ever is Edward III's great-great-grandsons duked it out, even though one of them was dead for part of the fight, but we can't get into that now, so Henry VI to Edward IV to Henry VI to Edward IV, the end. Edward IV on his deathbed left his crown to his son, but being 12 he needed protection, so Richard, his bestest uncle in the world, promised to take super good care of him. Edward V then promptly disappeared under suspicious circumstances that left Richard to become Richard III. But he didn't stay king for long, because Edward III's great-great-great-grandson Henry VII took the crown, put a ring on Elizabeth of York to lock down that royal legitimacy, and then signed.
Now, a lot of people today would find this disgusting. Cousins marrying cousins. But please understand that was a whole different time period. And the reason why members of why monarchs and nobles would marry each other's relatives was because they viewed as marrying someone of a low status would make them illegitimate, thereby removing all their rights to political and military power. So marrying someone of a high status, even if they were a relative, was the best option and choice for them to make. So yeah. Now, a lot of people mistake this for incest, when in reality the term for relatives marrying relatives is called inbreeding. Now, what is incest? While on the other hand, incest is marrying a direct family member, like for example a brother marrying a sister, or a mother marrying a son. That's incest. But if it's cousin and cousin, or aunt and nephew, that's inbreeding.
Hired Henry VIII, splitter of churches and ladies. Henry VIII thought it was high time to formalize the rules of inheritance, so he wrote them out in his will, basically saying oldest boys first, girls only if there aren't any boys, and Parliament approved the rules, which should have made everything neat and tidy, but we're about to enter the really messy time, because Henry's son lived just long enough to screw it up, inheriting the throne at 9. There was, of course, a scheming protectorate running things, yet he still declared at 15 that his father's rules were dumb and his sisters were dumb, and that his first cousin once removed, Lady Jane Grey, should be the next monarch instead. Then he died, and Lady Jane Grey became queen at sweet 16. Sort of, in a disputed status way, for 9 days, until beheaded by Mary, the first really, truly, officially, nobody doubts it queen. Mary didn't have any kids and passed the crown to Elizabeth I, who became the second queen in a row to also not have children. But no problem, because Lady Jane Grey was next in right. Now this is the point at which we acknowledge Scotland exists. They'd been doing their own royal thing, which for our purposes joins the English branch, where Edward III's great-granddaughter married into it in the 1400s, and then goes James, 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 Mary Queen of Scots, James, bringing us back to the 1600s. Henry VIII's sister importantly also married into this line of the family, giving it English legitimacy points in the eyes of the English Parliament, which asked to borrow Scotland's James, making him king of 2 countries, with 2 numbers in his name depending on where you're counting from. James had a son, Charles.
Now you would think this is when the unification of Scotland and England would start. You know, the whole United Kingdom of England and Scotland and the whole Union Jack, but no, that would the unification of Scotland and England wouldn't happen until like the year 1702 or 1701. Basically what I'm saying is it wouldn't happen until like the early 1700s.
Charles I, and you might think this unification of the monarchs means the very messy time is over. But no, because Cromwell. Cromwell didn't like kings and beheaded Charles I, declaring no royals no longer, making himself the Lord Protector, which was in no way like a king, even though he was in charge and it was a hereditary office passed to his son. But the Cromwells didn't last, mainly because his son was a fancy country squire who didn't follow Rule 0, keep the army happy, giving Charles's son, Charles II, the ability to re-establish the monarchy. Charles II had lots of children, all of which were illegitimate, leaving his brother James II next in line. But James II was Catholic, and ever since Henry split the church, Catholics had terrible approval ratings. But conveniently, he had—
Yep, even today, that's still a rule that the monarch of England cannot be Catholic. So yeah.
nice Protestant daughters, one married to a Dutch prince, who by the nature of these things was the grandson of Charles I. Bonus English legitimacy points, plus who doesn't like the Dutch? With James—
Yep, that's true. I mean, who doesn't like the Dutch to this day?
so unpopular and William and Mary so popular, the army and nobles pretty much invited the royal couple to invade, and James too fled. William and Mary ruled as co-monarchs, but without children, the crown went to Queen Anne, who also didn't produce any heirs, though not from lack of effort. She was pregnant 17 times. Again—
Wait, what? So, she was pregnant 17 times? I'm surprised she was able to survive. Considering the medical technology and knowledge at the time. Jeez. I'm shocked. Anyway, let's continue, I guess.
Again, finding themselves with a no royals no longer situation, Parliament decided it was really truly seriously the time to sort out the rules of inheritance, to avoid pretenders from every branch of this messy tree fighting over the crown. Parliament did a royal reboot to clear the cruft, defining Sophia of Hanover, the granddaughter of James dual numbers, to be the new starting point for all claims to the crown. These rules finally stuck, thus ending the very messy time. George I, son of Sophia, was the first king under the new rules, then his son George II to George III.
Fun fact of George I, he doesn't know how to speak in English, mostly speaking in his national language, German. So, yeah. The same goes for George II, or maybe I'm mistaken, maybe George II did know how to speak English a bit, but for all I know and remember, George I never knew how to speak English.
And even though he lost America and his mind, never fear, the rules are here, so the crown continued to calmly descend the family tree, going to George IV, who didn't have any surviving children, to William IV, who had 10 children, all illegitimate. Then passing through his dead younger brother to Queen Victoria, who started her reign in 1837 and made it to just over the finishing line of the 20th century, which is a doubly impressively long time given the state of medical technology then. After the end of her age, the crown went to her son Edward VII, to George V, to Edward VIII, who finally breaks up this neat and tidy and
by the way, did you know that George the Fifth and Kaiser Wilhelm II and Tsar Nicholas II, if I remember, yeah, all of them were cousins, and their grandmother was Queen Victoria. So when World War One happened, it wasn't a battle of a political affair. It was more so of a family affair, just as much as it was a war. Yeah.
and somewhat boring line of succession by committing a scandal, marrying a commoner, an American commoner divorcee twice over. Actually, the divorces were a real problem and weren't compatible with the monarch's role as head of state and also the Church of England in the 1930s. Edward abdicated to his brother George VI, who was reluctant to take the crown and then had to oversee World War II and the subsequent breakup of the British Empire, which drained the reluctant king's health, who died at 56, leaving the crown to Elizabeth II in 1952 at the age of 25. 7 years older than Victoria, her great-great-grandmother was on her coronation day, but in early September 2015, Elizabeth became the longest reigning queen in not just British history, but world history.
Yep, and we will miss her dearly. Though I'm not British, nor am I from a Commonwealth. Like I said, I'm from the Philippines. We have no ties to to the UK. But if I were a British citizen, I'd be a royalist. So yeah, the Queen's passing was really sad news. We'll miss her. Long live the Queen.
From Elizabeth II, the crown continues on to Charles, the longest heir apparent in British history, to his son William, to his son George. And that is a brief history of the royal family.
Wait, no. Go back.
Everyday 99 pesos and below banner on the homepage. Shop 99 pesos and below deals.
You know, hexagons are the bestagons.
No, wait, no, stop. Shite. Whatever. Anyway, so, yeah, that's the end of that video. It was totally not confusing at all, and I'll definitely not remember all of it. So, yeah, I don't really have anything else to say, really. I've already given most of my thoughts and input during the video, so, yeah. So, if you like this video, please hit that like and subscribe. Check out my Facebook link, it's in the description. And if you want, check out the original video by CGP Grey. I'll be posting the link down there as well. Go check him out. He makes very good content, and yeah, I'll see you guys next time, I guess. Bye!